In addition to the intentions that we've talked about, we also have 5 prompts that we recommend using. These prompts are meant to overcome certain challenges that occur during arguments. It could be that people don't want to share their opinions. It could be that somebody is speaking too much. There are many different kinds of challenges that come up in an argument. And so we're going to offer prompts that are framings for how to overcome these challenges, and also very specific language that we recommend you try as part of your healthy arguments. The first prompt we call No Warmth Without Heat, based on Priya Parker's book, The Art of Gathering, where she talks about a gathering can't feel great, isn't really very warm, if there isn't some heat, some spice. We all know those gatherings where we come together, or a party where we're at, and nobody is saying anything. The conversation is kind of dull. And in those moments, we need to somehow find a way to turn up the heat, to create some warmth in the room. And so we think that's true also when it comes to arguments. And the question, of course, is how do you do that? So we have several different phrases, different sentences that can help turn up the heat. I'll give 2 examples. One is actually just to say, I'm going to turn up the temperature here, and then to say something that might be a little controversial. By adding a little controversy, by saying that unpopular opinion, turns up the heat a little bit. You might also say, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, to again bring in a different opinion that hadn't been heard yet. And that way we can turn up the heat in the conversation to create some warmth between all of us in our argument. The second prompt is making room for uncertainty. Sometimes when we're having a conversation, we're not sure about what we really think, and that can feel uncomfortable. And one way to make us more comfortable with that uncertainty is by naming it. So we can say things like, I know earlier in the conversation I said X, but now I think maybe Y. Or we can just name it outright and say, I'm not really sure I agree with this opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway to try it on. And in fact, what happens when we offer those opinions which we're uncertain about, and when we say we're uncertain about, it allows for a conversation to flow more easily because we feel more open, and the people around us will feel more open as well to sharing those opinions. The third prompt is emotions are signals, not stop signs. Emotions are critically important in every conversation and certainly in arguments. That's what arguments are often about, the head and the heart. And so we want to say very clearly that emotions need to be in the room. But also, emotions should not be stop signs. They shouldn't be the moment where we say, this is too much and everything must stop. And so the question is, how do we have emotions in the room in a healthy way that allow the conversation to be real and allow the conversation to continue, but they don't stop the conversation entirely? So we have a few suggestions. One is to name for people when something is hard to hear. Say, wow, that opinion is really hard for me to hear. It hurts me a little bit even, but I'm going to try and hang in. Now, it's also important to say, if you really think that harm is being done, if you feel that harm is being done to you, maybe the conversation needs to stop. But if there's hurt is not the same as harm. Not always clear what the difference is, but there is a difference. And so we encourage you as much as possible to stay in the conversation. Say to someone, this is hurting and I'm trying to be here. And it's both an indication to yourself, the person who might be feeling the hurt, that let me try and breathe deeply and stay in this conversation. It's a moment where I might learn a lot. And it's also a moment to say to the person speaking, be careful. You're treading on thin ice here. You're in a zone that might be uncomfortable for me, so let's speak very carefully to each other, but let's not stop the conversation. The fourth prompt we call yes, but. You heard me correctly, yes, but. Many of you might have heard the term yes and been encouraged to use the term yes and. We like yes and also, but not necessarily for healthy arguments. Yes and comes from the world of improvisational theater, where we start with one action or one scene and we want to add on to that scene. It's really useful in brainstorming to say yes and. We give one idea and then we add another idea. But in an argument, we often mean, yes, I hear what you're saying, but I have a different opinion. And so we want to encourage you to use the word but when you mean but. If you feel differently about something, say yes, I hear you. Yes, I know you're valuing one thing, but I am valuing something else. I have a different opinion. The fifth prompt is be more a gatherer than a hunter. We want to be in a mindset of gathering other people's opinions. And if we looked at the first four prompts, they were all about what should we say and how do I express my opinion. Be more a gatherer than a hunter is taking a moment and saying, what haven't I heard yet? What opinion have I not yet gathered? And so we want to suggest that it's a sort of moment of checking in with yourself. And one way of doing that, and especially here, is to say, we want to do that out loud. We want to say something like, I haven't heard your opinion yet. I'd like to ask you to speak. Or, I've been talking a lot. I'm going to pause so I can hear somebody else's opinion. And often it's not only a way of checking in with yourself and inviting other opinions, but it may even be a tool that other people in a group might use to say, hey, I've heard you offer your opinions, but I actually haven't heard so-and-so offer his or her opinion. And it's a way of all of us acting more, of gathering more opinions, is understanding that we want to invite people into the conversation as much as we can.